Chicago Bulls Media Day went on yesterday, and the season has now unofficially started for the Chicago Bulls. Training camp opened yesterday as well, with a preseason game right around the corner for the Chicago Bulls. What are the biggest takeaways to come out of Media Day? We can talk about all that and more on today's Locked On Bulls.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily Chicago Bulls podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for tuning in to Locked On Bulls, member of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. I'm Hayes, host and creator of Chicago Bulls Central, Chicago Bears Central YouTube pages and podcasts. And today's episode is brought to you guys by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. With that said, let's go ahead and get into it today. So, Media Day went down yesterday for the Chicago Bulls, and there are a number of things that happened in Media Day that we can take away from it. I have like 3 pages of notes. My note taking during Media Day is immaculate. I could probably hand this note file over to somebody and they can make like a book out of it, because it's pretty detailed in here. I have notes on like facial expressions and everything. So there you go on that one. But the thing that really spoke to me the most for Media Day, and I talked about this a little bit on Central as well, is AK saying they're not skipping steps. No skipping steps from the Chicago Bulls. And that's an important piece of this, because the Bulls did skip steps with their last build. We're getting, DeMar DeRozan and Nikola Vucevic here, those guys, they skipped steps. And those steps that they skipped were actual development, right? Like, I know that not everybody shares this mindset that I have, but I have a very simple mindset when it comes to sports. You don't trade the farm just to become a playoff team. You do that once you are a solid playoff team and you need to get over the top. The Bulls traded 3 first-round picks just to get to a point of being a playoff team. 3 of them, right? 3 first-round picks and multiple second-round picks if we're counting all of that. To bring in Alex Caruso, Lonzo Ball, DeMar DeRozan, and Nikola Vucevic, they sent out a lot of draft capital. They spent money, right? And the problem is that they did that at a time where the Bulls weren't even proven to win enough to win a playoff series. And thus, it wasn't sustainable, and it was very fragile, and everything came crashing down after that point, right? A simple losing Lonzo Ball completely kind of threw them off of what they were building towards at that point. And I'm somebody who always, I have the mindset that you want to get your team to a certain point, and then once you get to that point, that's when you could start mortgaging draft picks. That's when you could start making the flash trades. That's when you could start doing those things, because you at least have a base of a proven concept. The Bulls did not have that at that time. We were a franchise that was stuck in the mud. AK at the time when he took over the job acted like he understood and even said, we're going to build organically. We're going to do this thing through the draft. We're going to take our time, and then immediately traded for an almost 30-year-old player to then help them push them, and then added even older players in DeMar DeRozan after that, right? The Alex Caruso and Lonzo Ball signings weren't bad. I think those probably would have happened either way, but the Bulls skipped steps, and thus it wasn't as sustainable. And while I know it's asking for a lot of patience of a fan base that understandably so does not have patience right now, the way that the Bulls are going about this, if they get it right, which is the biggest if here, is going to be a lot more sustainable than the last build that we had here for this organization. Now, for that, I think that puts pressure on the front office to do a few things. Hey, you got to hit on your draft picks. Like, you got to hit on your draft picks. And that was something else that came out of Media Day for the Chicago Bulls, that when AK and Billy Donovan talked, that they seemed very confident in Noah Essengay. Now, they stopped short of setting any type of expectations for playtime or anything like that this upcoming year. I think when you look at how even Billy Donovan managed Matas Buzelis, it's reasonable for them to do that there. But there's confidence. If they have hit on, and we won't know for a little while, but if Matas and Noah end up working out, that's great, right? You have to hit on your draft picks. B, your signings, they have to make sense. And you also now, because you're in this place where you do have financial flexibility, you have to think about these contracts that you're signing. You have to look at them, and because you're hoping that you hit on these picks, you also have to keep in mind, all right, Matas is going to be due for an extension in 4 years, well, now 3 years. Noah Essengay is going to be doing extension in 4 years. If these guys hit the way that we think that they're going to hit, we have to start thinking about our financial situation around that. I talk about it in this sense. It's pivot points. And the way that AK talked about it is that, they are evaluating for long-term fit. The Bulls have over $80 million in expiring contracts. They have 7 players under contract after this year. And so hearing that they're evaluating for that long-term fit, to me, again, shows that they have at least some semblance of a vision here. How they execute it is going to be the thing here. And I'm not saying that AK and Eversley have done anything to earn huge trust from the Chicago Bulls or anything like that, because I don't think that. I don't think there should be any blind faith in what this Bulls team can do. I don't think that there should be that, right? But I also think at the same notion of that, as Bulls fans, we can't keep carrying that they filled with the DeMar DeRozan and Lonzo and Zach build and now think that automatically carries over into failure with this build. They've changed the process of what they want to do here. Again, doesn't mean that they're going to be successful, but just because the last version of the team went left, you can't assume or act as if it's already gone left with this one. This is a new path. This isn't the same one. And to that credit, AK and Billy Donovan, when they did talk, while they talked about that they're still a franchise that wants to win games, but you don't hear the nature that this team thinks it's super competitive anymore. You don't hear that, we think we're going to make the playoffs. Like, they want to earn that, right? They know that they have to get tougher, which is something that was said in the press conference a lot, something that reverberated through the entirety of media day from players and coaches and everything alike, is that they understand that they have to deal with physicality better. But this is a team that does seem connected, and there's some belief in what they can do as a unit. And we got to see what's going to happen there, right? We got to see what's going to happen. But I think overall, what Media Day did is that it set kind of the goals for the season. What they want to do is they want to evaluate for long-term fit. They want to develop. Matas Buzelis talked a lot about how much he worked with the player development department. We'll talk a little bit about that here at the end of this episode. But Matas talked about they want to develop. Cool, great. That's what they have here. And they still want to be a team that is still trying to win basketball games. This is not a team that's going to tank. So when you hear the thing of not skipping steps, to me, the way that I take that is, we're not going to try to make a flash trade. We're not going to, with the Bulls fans talking about trading for Zion, trading for this, it's probably not going to happen. But we are trying to build something sustainable here. We're trying to build something with a total team in mind, and we're trying to figure out the path going forward with that one. Shay says, I know you didn't have your own channel at the time, but remember before even made the trade for those guys, before AK even came, let's not act like fans were asking for the Chicago Bulls to make moves. True. I mean, true. You're right on that one. Stop using speech to text, though. Nemaya? Is that Nemaya Lockett? Let me know if I mispronounced that. Says that's right. I was just a toddler when we watched a Bulls winning championship, all the playoff series, and then win titles, all 6 championships. So when the Bulls won their last title was what, 97, 98, something like that? I would have been 9, 10, something like that. So I feel you. It's been a long time since we've seen the team, be a championship level team. Been a long, long time. And, we're not anywhere close to being that right now. And no doubtedly, right? We're not anywhere close. And, the Bulls fans are going to have their feelings until we are close, and rightfully see. I'm not mad at it. It is what it is there, man. The Bulls are taking the long route right now, but I tell you what, it's the route that they should have took initially. Like, I get wanting to make it and turn this team into a playoff team as soon as you took it over, but you should have made sure in what you had here first, right? You should have kind of ensured that. And I get it, they did it too to kind of make sure that Zach LaVine was going to re-sign here. I understand all that. You got to do some things when those are in place, but I think looking back on it is that the Bulls tried to skip steps. And they're still paying for that mistake in trying to skip steps. And now they're trying to recoup some of that. They're trying to get back and course correct for where they should have been 3-4 years ago. And like I said, it's the long path. It's not the easy route forward. It's not that. And I'm not going to try to sell you guys on it being that. But hopefully at some point we will start seeing just a better execution, better team, and just a franchise that just, now that they do have a vision, are you going to operate better within that vision? I think that's an important part here, and hopefully it is for the Chicago Bulls. But with that said, we're going to talk about Coby White and his calf injury and what that means for the Chicago Bulls going through training camp. But first, we do got to get into a message from 5 Hour Energy. Caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5 Hour Energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 20-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee, plus B vitamins and nutrients with 0 sugar and 0 crashes. What I love most is how portable they are. Big taste, tiny shot. You can take it anywhere and get the boost you need. Plus, if you get my favorite flavor, which is the grape, make no jokes about that. I think that, it gives a refreshing flavor. It gives you a quick lift when you need it the most. Enough with boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5 Hour Energy shots. Get the favorites you love or be bold and try something new in store and online at www.5hourenergy.com on Amazon today. We're Locked On Bulls coming up next. All right, and there goes my, hold on, y'all, give me 1 second. I'm really starting to hate Restream because it stops letting me scroll after a while, and I could not get the things off the screen. But nonetheless, we are back. So there you guys go there. But I want to talk about Coby White. So one of the things that came out that was a little bit concerning was that Coby White had a calf injury. And, AK said it first initially when he was out there that they had that there was a calf injury to Coby White. And when I heard that, I was like, and then they were kind of non-committal and talking about how serious it is. So, apparently Coby White suffered a calf injury over the last couple of weeks with the practices that the Bulls have been having. They've been taking it easy on him because for those that don't know, calf injuries can eventually lead to an Achilles injury. That same thing happened with Jason Tatum. Same thing happened with Tyrese Halliburton. They had calf injuries. They played on it. It went the way that it went. So the Bulls are being very cautious with this. AK laid out the expectation that Coby White's going to be limited in training camp, and we may not see him until the end of the preseason at the earliest. That's just what's going to happen there. And I'll say this, that's I'm not mad at that at all. Be cautious with your players. It's preseason. It doesn't seem like there's any risk of him missing the start of the season, which is the most important thing. Coby White also talked about how he wants to grow as an off-ball player. He wants to shoot 40% from 3 this year, something that, he said he's surprised he's never been able to do with how good of a shooter that he is. So, all those things are there. Coby White's going to be fine. It seems like, again, I don't want to sell you guys something and then, something happens. You're like, but Hayes, you told us. So, we'll see where that ultimately ends up going with Coby, but it seems like they're getting ahead of it. They're making sure that he gets the rest that he needs. That's the biggest and most important thing with these type of calf injuries when you don't want them to turn into something else. It's just to make sure that he's getting the rest that he needs. And don't rush him out there too early. Make sure that calf is fully healed. And it is what it is there. Coby knows what the season is ahead for Coby White. He knows what the importance of this season. Hearing him talk about what he wanted to do to be a better, backcourt mate with Josh Giddey. Talking about how there's times where Josh Giddey sees him open when Coby doesn't think that he's open, but Josh Giddey's right. Seeing all those things is really good to hear from Coby White. So, things are going in the right direction there. And it's good to see that the Bulls are starting to get on track with what they need there. But, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Shay says, to be honest, I would only play him about 6 minutes the whole entire preseason. Why do you keep leading it with to be honest? You could just say what you got to say. We don't think you're a liar, Shay. This is his first real season. He's had a consistent role from start to finish. Yeah, I agree with you. This is the first season that Coby White should theoretically have the same role at the end of the season that he's going to have at the beginning of the season and vice versa, right? Like he's coming into this as the number one scoring option. He's never really had that before. So, those are good things and positives for Coby White. And we just got to continue to see where it's going to go for Coby, man. Coby is a player that does not seem like he's shaking in confidence. Of course, they asked him about his pending free agency, and he had a great mindset on it, saying basically, listen, I'm not worried about that. I don't think about that right now. I'm thinking about coming out here competing with my guys, winning basketball games. And, I'm sure that it's somewhere there in the back of his mind, especially when you suffer something like a calf injury, right? Like I'm sure it's somewhere there in the back of your mind. But it seems like everybody right now is focused. and that's good. There's really no distractions, right? Um, even Vooch talking about how he's not worried about the trade. He's not worried about his role changing. There's been no talk from Billy Donovan or the coaching staff on his role changing at all. Everybody seems kind of settled in what their job is here with the Chicago Bulls. Now, that doesn't mean that we aren't looking at some lineup things. Like, for example, AK and Billy Donovan were asked about the starting small forward position. And it was interesting enough, the only two names that came up there were Kevin Huerter and Isaac Okoro. No Iota Sumu mentioned there. No Patrick Williams mentioned there. I know people are going to say, but Hayes, Patrick Williams took a picture with the starters. Does that mean that he's going to be one of the starters this upcoming year? Shut up. Everybody seems focused, and that's really what you want at the start of the season. Everybody focus on the goal and where they want to get to this season, and that's the most important thing is focusing on what your goals are, both individually and collectively. And this is a team that physicality was talked a lot about. Coby talked about it. Giddey talked about it. Vooch talked about it. AK and Eversley talked about. AK and Billy Donovan talked about it. So like we continually hear that there is a desire to address the physicality problem. One of the greatest call outs too was Billy Donovan talked about how opposing teams average 4 more possessions than the Chicago Bulls in each game. And that was surprising when you think about the pace that the Bulls play with and the fact that the Bulls get a lot of possessions. They get a lot of shots up, right? But it goes to show you how you need to refine. It's not just about playing with pace. It's also about the efficiency that you play with, the determination that you play with. And so that's something that this Bulls team is going to have to address heavily this season, are those things. And we'll see what comes about it for the Bulls. We'll see if the Bulls can get it going in the way that they need to, because this is a team that, I don't like the fact that a lot of the physicality talk was kind of centered around Isaac Okoro bringing that, because he will bring physicality. Make no mistake about it. I have no doubt that Isaac is going to bring the physicality that the Bulls are missing, but you can't rely on just Isaac Okoro to bring that physicality. You can't do that. It can't just be, it has to be a total team effort. And so, seeing hopefully the Bulls do that and do that part consistently is going to be important in all this as well, because if you can get to that place where you are playing consistent physical basketball, we already know that the pace that the Bulls play with, it works to their advantage. If you do these things and do them consistently, that's where you can start finding your rhythm and finding your identity as a team. And that's what needs to be one of the focuses for this Bulls team, is finding an identity. We have not had an identity for far too long as an organization. And so that play style that we started establishing last year was great. Now, how do you build off of that, right? And that goes back to go back with Coby White, some of this stuff and him talking about him understanding what he needs to do now to fit better with Josh Giddey. That's part of that is benefiting off of, all right, we set this foundation. Now we can build off of it and refine it some. And I hope that we see that this season. I hope that we see, I'm one of the more optimistic fans for the Bulls. I think that the Bulls can be at a 500 team this season. But even then, I'm not saying or predicting this team to go crazy, make the playoffs as a 5th seed or anything like that. I do think that they do need to compete, right? And we shall see if that continues to happen for this Bulls team. Hopefully it does. I pray that this is a season where the Bulls just continue making forward steps in progress. 39 wins last season. With having the team relatively healthy, the Bulls had I think the second most players play 70 games or more last season. So, we of course we lost Io, we lost Trey Jones, Lonzo Ball wasn't healthy for a stretch there, but for the most part, we had a relatively healthy season. And so now adding those players in Io and Trey Jones back to this team, getting Isaac Okoro, who's more healthy than Lonzo Ball, and we can just be a team that makes forward steps. That's what this season is about, is making forward steps and continue laying that foundation. And then with the flexibility that the Bulls have coming up next offseason, with the money that they have available, now how do you build off that? What's the next step there? And that's what we hope for this Bulls team. So, it's going to be a fun season. We're going to be here talking about it. We're going to be here reviewing it. We're going to be here watching live after every game. So, make sure you guys stay in tune with us and locked in with us for that, because it's going to be a fun season. And it's going to be a season, hopefully, of a lot of revelations on what the future really does hold And one of the biggest pieces of that future is Matas Buzelis, who we're going to talk about Matas and his media day coming up next. But first, we got to get to a message from FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock the $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. What I love about using FanDuel is that they give you a lot of ways to play. So you can build parlays, try player props, and even follow games as they are live. It makes watching football even more exciting, and when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are we waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. More Locked On Bulls coming up next. All right, Bulls fans. So before we get out of here today, we got to end it talking about Matas Buzelis. And Matas Buzelis had probably the sound clip of the day, right? Matas is just a player that what I love is the mentality of Matas Buzelis and the way that he attacks it, right? One thing that he said in this game that really stood out to me was he says this: I always think of it like this. If somebody has done it, I can do it too. If nobody has done it, I'm going to be the first one to do it. And, Matas talked about working with the player development staff this offseason and how he really focused his offseason around putting work into his body, but making sure that he added muscle and strength, but did not lose any mobility. He didn't lose his jumping ability. He didn't lose any of that athleticism that he had, right? And that's the thing that's important, because if you add on muscle too fast to your body, you do lose some of that. I think we saw a little bit of that with P. Will, for example, right? I think P. Will tried to add on too much muscle to be a power forward and end up losing some of what made him special as a rookie. It wasn't just that limited Matas, the limit Patrick Williams, but Matas, working with the player development department a lot this offseason to work on his game. He talked about wanting to grow as a playmaker, as a dribbler, as all those type of things, move off ball. And Matas said this. He said that he wants to win Most Improved Player of the Year. And that was something that really stood out to me, because there have only been 7 players in NBA history that have won Most Improved Player in their second year. And the last 2 to do it was Monte Ellis, which was in the 2006-7 season. So that was almost 20 years ago. And then Gilbert Arenas, I think in 2002, 2003, if I'm not mistaken. Those are the 2 most recent players to do, but only 7 players have done it in NBA history. And so Matas is already trying to set his sights on something that doesn't happen commonly, but that, he also wants to make a defensive leap. And when you look at Monte Ellis and Gilbert Arenas, for example, when they did it, they didn't even average crazy numbers. It wasn't like they averaged 20 points per game. Monte Ellis averaged 16.8. Gilbert Arenas, I think, was around that number too. So it wasn't even like you have to have these exponential numbers to do it. Now, there's a lot more scoring done in the NBA, so you may need to do it in that case. But I think that it is a realistic goal for Matas. But Matas even said that it has to come through winning. Like, the individual accolades come when your team's winning. And I love that that's the focus of this young guy, right? Is that he realizes, hey, yeah, I have things that I want to accomplish. I have things that I would love to hit individually, but it means that we still have to have team success to get there. Matas is the future right now of the Chicago Bulls. Now, how much that's going to be proven to be true remains to see how well Matas continues to develop as a player, what he continues to add to his game. He's going to have an opportunity. I think also in preseason, with Coby White being out for the preseason for a large chunk of it, getting to see Matas maybe take a step up, because our number 1 scorer is going to be out the preseason. So what does that mean? It opens up a lot of shots for some other players, Matas being one of them. Dalen Terry talked about wanting to come into this team and earn a role. It's going to be players that are going to have those opportunities to do it. So, I expect the Bulls offense to look funky in preseason, but it also gives an opportunity for Matas Buzelis to show what he's developing on. And I think that's going to be a big part, because if Matas steps into those shoes and is even the secondary scorer with Coby White being out in preseason, to me, that sets him up to be in a pretty good spot for the NBA season. So this preseason could end up being all about Matas Buzelis. And we'll see. We'll see what he does, man. Matas is a bright spot for the Chicago Bulls, and hopefully Noah Essingay can be that a little bit too. So We shall see what the future does hold for the Bulls, man. But that is my time for today, guys. I want to appreciate you guys for tuning in with us this morning. Pat is out this week, so we'll just be me this week. I'll try to get some guests on as well throughout the week, so it's not just me yapping at you guys for 20, 30 minutes a day. But thank you guys for tuning in. You can follow me at CEO Hayes. Locked On Bulls is free and available on every podcasting app and platform of your choice, as well as YouTube, the Odyssey app, Amazon Fire TV, Roku TV, Fubo TV, basically anywhere you want us. You can get it. We'll see you guys bright and early tomorrow morning, man. Love you guys. Go Bulls. Peace, y'all.